Hey guys, how you all doing? I am Kieran, and this is Fox Off RPG. I'm joined here today by Greg Christopher, also probably most commonly known as Chubby Funster. How you doing, Greg?
How's it going?
Not
Yeah,
too
that
bad, not
name's
too
kind of
bad.
taken over everything. I hardly ever actually get called Greg anymore.
Yeah, because it's you have it down in your publishing name as Chubby Funster, isn't it? That's like your
People
publisher
like it,
sort of thing.
and I show up in
Yeah.
like YouTube chats. It shows up as Chubby Funster, um, that kind of thing. So people they'll just call me Chubby, like that's my first name, and it's fine with me. I don't care. It's brand
It's become
recognition
like
as far as
your
I'm
official
concerned. So
nickname.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, I have a question with that. How did you get that name or come up with that name? Because I don't think I've ever heard you talk about this.
Oh, it's from your side of the pond. Um, There, Ricky Gervais has a part of one of his shows where he was complaining about that and this was when he was a lot heavier than he is now. But he would complain that every time they would mention him, they would like lead with adjectives about his weight rather than anything that he did or said
Oh
or
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And so he said, like, if I go do this, I forget what his example was. We got the headline in the paper the next day will be, Chubby Funster, Ricky Gervais does blah blah blah. And like Funster is not really a word in American English, but my understanding is it's kind of for comic or comedian in the I don't know how much of the Isles, but at least in England. And then so I just thought it was a funny name. I like Ricky Gervais.
Yeah,
I
he's funny.
everything like so. I was like, okay, I'm going to call myself Chubby Funster, and then it just took off from there. Occasionally when I do like kind of searches on YouTube or stuff to make sure if there's some review that I didn't see or whatever, I search from my name. And after I scroll down a little bit, it starts going into Ricky Gervais clips. So I still think about I think about Ricky.
That's awesome. See,
Yeah,
it's also a very unique name as well. So it's either going to show
yeah,
you or Ricky Gervais then.
exactly.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when Ricky would be on TV. Like you said, it'd always be saying like that. And then he got really fit. He lost loads of weight.
That's right.
He
Yeah,
had the veins popping on the arms and all that. He's like, yeah, what you gonna say
yeah.
now? Fit boy attacks.
Yeah, he's improved a lot. I wish I could get that kind of
Yeah.
improvement, but I don't have the willpower to do it. But
Yeah, I was in the gym a lot. I've only started going back there for the last little while. I had some injuries and stuff like that. So the first day I went back properly to the gym, I decided I had a leg day, and I worked my way up to 150 kilo squats. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good. So that would be like, I don't know how many in kilo pounds that would be. I'll tell you. Uh,
I don't know. I'd have to force myself to convert a lot of things into imperial units because I use
I'll tell you
I
exactly
use
now.
meters a lot because I played a lot of Traveler, and so I think of things in meters,
Yeah.
and then I have to be like, okay,
So
well,
in pounds, that's 308 pounds.
okay,
My best squat ever was 418.
oh,
Yeah, and my deadlift was I'll tell you now, 529 pounds.
all right,
So yeah. Anyway, it's just completely off track there.
no worries.
How are you, Greg?
I'm good. I'm
How
good.
do
I
you,
just I just got back from sitting in my car with my son was taking a tennis lesson, and it is very hot, uh, over 25 Celsius in Atlanta right now, and yeah,
Lovely. It sounds like
I'm
it
a
all the time.
little drained a little bit physically. It's very hot and humid here, but
Yeah,
things are
it's
going good.
warm
Things are
here, but
going
we don't
great. It's
get
been a
the
great
same kind of heat.
Yeah, it's been a great couple months for Chubby Funster. And back at the beginning of March, I had two releases, the GM Companion and Terra Invictus, and that has kind of added to where we kind of, we were kind of here, and then bringing out those two products at the same time has really brought stuff
Yeah,
up. And
yeah.
there's been a lot of activity and interest, and I'm very happy about that.
Both of them be selling very well, from what I understand.
Yeah, the GM Companion is over halfway to platinum from gold, and
Oh wow.
that's like remarkably fast. I've never had a product move that quickly. It took a much longer time for ShadowSun to reach that same level, or the Player
Yeah.
Companion, which are also both ShadowSun and the Player Companion are platinum, which is over 1,000 sales, which is, I think it's like the top 3% on drive-through, because that doesn't sound like that many units, but in the role-playing game space, that's a lot of units. And
Oh yeah.
it's been a
Big
very
time.
interesting time. I'm kind of able to afford things that I wasn't able to afford with the revenues coming in, and able to do stuff that I, you got to, with any of this stuff, you got to be really deliberate about what you put your time and your energy into. But having more attention and more resources makes things a lot easier for you to accomplish your goals, which is, it's challenging. This is a
Yeah.
challenging hobby. There's a lot of people that are
It's very hit and
competing
miss as
in the
well.
space, and there's a lot of people that are producing stuff that is like not, I don't want to say unpolished, but just not very well polished. So moving and to a point where you stand out against that crowd, it requires a lot of work, especially as an individual, compared to being a corporation. I'm a sole proprietor. I am the only person here, and so it takes me, a lot of focus to make sure that I'm putting out stuff at this higher quality level.
Yeah, like I have player companion, the GM got companion, and Terra Invictus. I have the physical copies as well, and they look great. One of them is absolutely brilliant. I've played with Terra Invictus, but I've read through it several times. An idea for what I think is the GM companion is an essential part of my gaming. It's
That's great to
core
hear.
to
Yeah,
it from now on because it fills in holes. It's filled in holes that I had sort of issues with, like the dungeon stuff in particular. I prefer the way it's done with your book. It just makes them
I'm
really. I like bigger dungeons,
I'm losing
and
you a little bit on voice. Can you hear me good,
get me
or?
out. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh, it just went to just me. It's just, I lost hearing. I don't know what happened.
Hey there, sorry, I don't know what
Hey,
happened there.
no problem.
Everything just
There you go.
went. Um,
Yeah, it must be
it's
not a
still
great
recording.
internet today.
I'll probably yeah. I'll edit things together. I think I know what happened. Give me
Okay,
2 seconds. Because yeah, I know what happened. So it's still recording, so I'll have to edit things together anyway, but it's not a big deal.
no
So what
worries, no
happened
worries.
was my internet was really slow earlier. For some reason, it sort of crapped out, but then it wouldn't load up new scenes for me. And I think what happened was all those scenes were getting loaded up in the background on the StreamYard.
Okay.
So they all just showed up at once, and that's why the whole thing just slowed right down. So I'm just getting rid of some of them extra now.
No worries.
Sorry. myself here. Here. And it should be all good now. I think this is all good now. Yes. I feel real bad about that. So I'll cut back in now. Yeah, so I had a problem with my internet there, so we had to cut everything back in together. So yeah, we'll pick up where we left off there. So we were talking about yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it, for me?
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're talking about
how the internet stuff happens.
Yeah, yeah. We were saying that your Terra Invictus and the Gene Companion have about to go platinum, and they're just after coming out in the last.
Terra Invictus is at almost Electrum, which is really it's really good for kind of setting material, like focused material. The more generic the product is, the wider distribution, the faster sales, and so on. If you have a specific, dungeon or location or whatever, it doesn't sell as well as kind of general material. And but Terra Invictus has done very well considering that limitation, and I've been very happy with it. I think I was able to. I created some YouTube videos myself showing how to use the the solo play side of it, and then I talked a lot about in some solo play circles. I think that's. I mean, it can still be totally. I originally started writing it as just a regular campaign setting, not with a solo play component, but the notation system that you've got up right there. Which I created just to manage information flow, I realized that it would be a useful way to structure play for solo playing. Just anybody. Matt Jackson is a friend of mine. He makes YouTube videos about solo play stuff. I was watching his stuff, and then when you've made some recently, so that's been really cool. I think it's a really cool idea. Yeah, I think it allows people to get value out of a book that maybe they don't have. There's a lot of people who have like a regular game group, and those guys are interested in a particular thing. Let's say Traveler, whatever. And you're playing that and you like playing in that game, but you also want to do this other stuff. But your game time is with these guys doing Traveler. So you say, well, how am I going to get value out of this? A lot of people buy books and just read them. It's a very common thing in the hobby of people just buying stuff and reading it for its kind of literature value in a sense. But I wanted to kind of make it so
it's a lot more common than people think.
Yeah, it is. And I wanted to make it so that people could get value out of having the book, even if they didn't have a group to play with it. So the solo rules that I wrote resolve things using those icons in the notation system so that you know when you need to make a check in order to learn this bit of information or that bit of information. And then over time, you'll explore it like a choose your own adventure book. And there's a lot of different things that are out there in the world for you to discover. Like you're really playing, there's villains, there's plots. You can see like that secret agent icon that's up on the screen right now. That if you go to a location and there's one of these icons, if you have to make like a DC 18 check, and if you don't make it, then you don't know that your character didn't find out who the secret agent was. But if you do start uncovering those secret agents, it'll point back to villains. There's I think it's 10 villains plus 5 dragons at the back of the book. And
Yeah, it has a right the very
Each one
last few
has
pages.
its own objectives, and a lot of them are opposed. So, like, there's an island in the south called Norvain, and there's a lich that's trying to take over that island, and there's two dragons that live on that island that don't want that to happen, right? So
Hmm.
if you go in there, you can play sides against each other. There's also, I think there's an archdevil that's in the over, I guess it would be the western tip, kind of out that way. Um, it's hard to remember where everything is in a 300
Yeah,
hex.
there's
hex
everything's keyed as well.
yeah, there's tons and tons of stuff to find in there, and you can uncover. There's a lot of hexes that are not even, they don't even have a villain in them, but they have some kind of nefarious stuff going on. Like
Yeah.
there's a coastal village in a place, I won't spoil where it is, but when you come across it, it just seems like a fishing village, but it's infected by deep ones, and all of the people are kind of shape shifted deep ones. And so they try to trick you into staying there, and then they try to eat you, right? So there's that's not a villain, that's just like a, location where you could stumble on it. And even in solo play, it's very hard for you to realize that there's danger there until, if you fail the checks to
Yeah.
notice that these guys have double eyelids, then you end
You're gonna have a
up
bad
getting,
time.
eaten by them in the middle of the night. So there's all
Yeah,
kinds
like
of locations around where you can, like that, the military icon that's on the screen there. If you find one of those, you can recruit guys into your party to kind of fill gaps as you lose characters.
yeah.
The dungeon icon, when you get to that, you follow the rules that are in the GM companion or in the base Shadowdark book, if you don't have my GM companion, and build out a dungeon on the spot, right? So I don't have to fill the book with dungeons. There's random tools that you can make the dungeon, make a 10-room dungeon just like that. And
Yeah.
so you can just build it out. And I provide details of what's there. Like there's Durgar there, there's Drow, there's Quaggoth, whatever it is. And then you just populate the dungeon using the random system, and then roll random treasure and everything. So it's kind of like a big two-dimensional space, and then you can just build three-dimensional space in any time you need it. If you need to
Yeah.
go down into the ground, you just build it out randomly. And there's just tons and tons of stuff to do, travel around. There's intersections with, like, if you wanted to play this and use some of the player companion classes, right? There's 36 classes that I made for the player companion. What are the odds that there's somebody out there who's played all of those in a regular game? So if you want to make a party of
Yeah.
all Valkyries and run some kind of special campaign, you could do that solo whenever you want. Like, you could use the classes from Kelsey's Cursed Scrolls if you wanted to. Anything like that. It's just a flexible interface, and I've gotten enough positive reaction to this that I do think I'm going to continue to develop it out. Let me actually pull up while we're here.
Yeah, because one thing I was going to say to you, I think I said it to you on Discord as well. Like, Terra Invictus is great for solo players, obviously, because if someone's not sure how to play solo, this gives a great idea how they can do it, and then gives a built-in campaign setting where they basically just follow the book, and you have your map and everything, and the
Yeah.
map that you give, that you have the color map, and you also have a black and white map. So if people want to print off the black and white map, they can do that, and they don't have to worry about using a ton of ink or out like that.
Well, there's also there's a map pack on DriveThru. DriveThru has this card printing system that you could use to, like, make your own card games and so on. But one of the options is a 12 by 18 map, and you can just print. We can print one out, and let me yell at my son real quick, and I'll have him bring me one. Hold on a second.
Yeah, no worries.
My son plays it solo a lot.
Yeah.
He was really enjoyed it. He was my first playtester, and
you have nice slaves at home to help you.
Here we go. Here it is. Okay, so you can see. I mean, it's a really good quality.
Oh wow, yeah.
Map from DriveThru.
Yeah.
Has everything, really good detail levels and everything. So I've been very happy with that, and it comes for the incredible price of $1.30, I think. So
oh wow,
yeah, it's super cheap.
That's
one of the black and white, and there's one of the color in each print.
Yeah. And also, what I was saying to you before is this book is also great for group play anyway, because you have your setting there. It makes it really easy on the DM as well. If the DM is brand new, or they just want to relax and be like, okay, whatever.
My goal for a DM, and this is true in everything I've made. My goal, I mean, I don't know that some of my ShadowSun doesn't really achieve this as well as Shadowrim, because it was the first thing I made for Shadowdark that was really big. But my goal is to make it so the GM can sit down and run it with no prep at all. You sit down, you pull up the hex key, and you can see these icons are designed so that you can find whatever the information is you need as soon as you open to that page, and you can just read it off. You can start rolling with it.
Yep.
I have the reason why I came up with the icons in the first place was the years of suffering of flipping to a page and then having to, in a minute, figure out whether there's even monsters in the room or whether this or that is there, because it's just unorganized. Yeah. And being able to pull it up and go, okay, there's a guy here who has a rumor, and then we can start talking about that. And while we're doing that, while the players are reacting to that rumor, then you could read about an NPC or read about other things that are in the town or whatever it is. And so that's where I started going down that icon system, and then it just kept evolving from there. So let me we'll try to share this. I pulled it up when we were present. So this is the long-term plan that I developed. I made a whole world map for this, and I only cut out Terra Invictus, right? So my goal in the long term would be to do this second one in the basically there's a step here in the center of the map, and then it turns into a tundra. So the Terra Invictus map is very warm, temperate in the north, and then it goes into tropical and badlands. A lot of the territory is badlands. And then this kind of second module would be plains and steppe and tundra and Arctic. And then if that was successful, then try to bring in the third one as a full size thing, maybe integrated together or whatever. But this is kind of my long-term goal. One of the hardest parts about it's like writing you want to write a whole bunch of books. If the first book doesn't do so well, you can't really justify spending all of your time on a 7-book series or whatever, yeah,
of course.
But this one has done very well, and I've been happy with it enough to, I'm starting to sketch out what I would set up in the second one, and then make a way for you to kind of move between the maps. Because it in between the two maps is just a little bit of civilized territory. And then you'd be on the other side. So, nobody really likes to adventure in totally safe farmland, But, it would be a way of expanding it out. Yeah. And, I picked the South here first because there's a glut in the hobby of Nordic North stuff. And I know the irony of saying this with me having produced a Skyrim adaptation, but that there's just a lot of northern stuff and frozen stuff and ice monsters and stuff like that. And I wanted to get away from that. I
Yeah.
like other settings. I like Al-Qadim. I'm working on an Al-Qadim adaptation. I did a little bit of stuff on that today, but that's the kind of, I think we get stuck in a rut and people need something to go in a new direction. And I'm trying to push things. I'm always trying to push an innovation angle. What can we do differently for this? And a lot of times people get stuck in writing the same stuff over and over again. And I don't want to get into that situation.
Yeah, it's like reinventing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to do something different. Like first you had like ShadowSun for Shadowdark, and then you had the Skyrim sort of Shadowrun. Yeah, and now you have Terra Invictus. Like you said there, you shut off more parts of the world that you're creating or have created, and each thing is very different from the last. Like ShadowSun is very different to the Shadow Realm, and that's very different to Terra Invictus. There's one thing I want to show off here on Terra Invictus. It is the actual like hexes and the settlements sort of stuff. Like the way it's done, like it has the icons here, what they all mean.
These are the peaceful farmlands.
Military top of the map. Yeah, but like it just shows the layout of it all, and it gives for what hexes they're for. So you know what you're going to be doing. You have the random encounter stuff, and for day and night, if it's safe or unsafe. I mean, and some of these other places, you're going to have like rumors as well, and those rumors can also be used to create quests. Because you're going to roll up the rumors, and maybe one or two of them might have a cool idea for a quest. And like I was saying this before, say if me and you were both doing we're on the same hex, we roll up the exact same rumor for a quest. We could both come up with a completely different sort of story we end up telling, and maybe my adventure might be a short adventure outside somewhere, while your adventure might be like in a two or three level dungeon with 20 rooms in each level.
Well, like let me just pull this map up. I'll just hold it up physically. So like there are 3 starting towns in Terra Invictus. There's one that's like a nautical town over here. It's hard for me to tell. Everything's backwards. Okay, yeah. So there's a nautical town over here. There's a land town in the middle of the map, and then there's a naval town over here on the side in the temperate zone, right? Then like the third town is over here. And let's say we started in this nautical town up here, and one of us got a rumor that was leading you to a pyramid all the way down here, right? So this is the direction that you go, and then you expand all these encounters over here. There's a very special place right here at the end of that bay when you come ashore. There's all kinds of stuff right there. But the other one of us goes straight up there's a river here. You go up the river. There's all this stuff in here. Like even though it's civilized territory, there's all kinds of things to do. And you approach over into this plain here in the middle of the map, and it's a totally different experience for you. So you can run solo play stuff like 5 or 6 campaigns before you start even running out of things that you haven't done yet. I mean, there's 20.
I'd say way more than that. You could play this for years.
Yeah, there's 20
because a lot of it is also going to be
the starting towns that point you in any direction all over the map. Yeah, you just got to roll
even with that as well. You have to take an account. Yeah, you also take an account when you're playing as well. You're going to come across different stuff on your way to those areas, plus how each individual player is going to then roll up different encounters or maybe other things they come across, like rumors or dungeons, how they're going to interact with that on an individual level. You know, because say if you use your GM companion guide and you come across a dungeon out in the wild and on the way to somewhere, one person might only have like a small dungeon, another person might have a mega dungeon in their hand there. You know, and
Yeah,
they could choose to
because there's
spend
a
the whole time
that
there
was
or
one
move
of the
on.
things I added to the dungeon creation system compared to the Shadowdark
Yeah,
Basic is a much bigger size fluctuation. So, what you need this?
Yes, off the map.
All right, my son wants to play test it now. All right, there we go. Well, I guess it's not play testing anymore. The product's out. I still use the same word. But
it's a great problem.
Stole my book.
This is a great problem you have.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's hard being a parent. Yeah, of all the parenting problems to have, your son stealing your written material is not one of them. But yeah, it's just been really great experience. Each one of the hexes has a D6 encounter table, like you were talking about, and a lot of them are kind of story changing locations or people. So, for example, when we were doing playtesting with a group of my friends, and they were traveling between two towns, and they were just walking along the road, and they had a random encounter in a hex. So these are both towns. If you want to kind of scroll to another page where there's wilderness, but they're out there. They rolled up that there was a nobleman being strangled to death by a thief on the road. So they decided to intervene, and they were about 1 or 2 hexes away from a city. So they took the guy back to the city, and then he was now their friend, right? Because they saved him. So then he became a patron of different things that they wanted to do. He helped finance a temple for them. Because there's a pilgrimage and religious carousing built into Terra Invictus as an alternative.
Yeah, there's a lot of deities in this as well. It's great.
So you can
pilgrimage.
Yeah, you can go on a pilgrimage to any location. You can just roll it. I added the numbers to roll randomly if you want to just give yourself a random deity using this method.
4d12 you can roll up.
Yeah, it was hard to come up with a table because I think it's like 117 deities because it's 9 groups of I can't remember the exact numbers, but it doesn't come out to an even number, so I couldn't make it into just a simple table. So I made it into a table like this. The major gods are represented multiple times, so you have a better chance of rolling them. But then the acts of devotion works like carousing, but you're investing in spiritual matters instead of throwing the money away on a party, right?
Yeah.
So if you get a high enough number,
great thing.
Yeah, you're building a permanent structure in honor of your deity, and it attracts acolytes and priests.
That's
something
about Shadowdark that I think people really love, and also creates new opportunities for creators to come up with interesting ideas for how players can spend like their gold and time to do other things, and it's going to encourage them because it's going to give opportunities for like events to happen, XP gain, or you might have someone who ends up becoming like a lifelong enemy depending on like what creator that you're using the book stuff for. Like it has like stuff here.
Well, so like right there where you are, if you look at result 9 on that table, if you get a 9, you're gaining 5 XP, and a villain on the map becomes your rival. So these are like really powerful villains. So that like there's like a beholder that wants to kill you now. There's a devil or a dragon or something like that. I mean, like it's a serious. That's a tough result. But that I felt like as the carousing results got higher and higher, it shouldn't just be pure good outcomes. There should have, sometimes it should randomly give you a curveball. So that's in there, and I did similar systems for military training for a fighter and building a magical academy for the wizard in the GM companion. So in the GM companion, it has I wrote this one first in terms of you know, but 9 months, 9 months before it was released, I was working on some of these things, and then I was working on the GM companion closer to release. But yeah, the GM companion has
Combat
combat
training, yeah.
training and magical study, I think it's called.
Magical study.
Yeah,
Yep.
so there's all kinds of different options that you can do, and I feel like the carousing mechanic in Shadowdark might be one of the most critical systems, because when you think about it abstractly, it doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal. Just reading the book, having never played. But in reality, players see this because they think of XP as the most precious resource. It's more precious than gold, for sure. If they get 100 gold pieces, they're like, let's spend it right away on carousing. Let's spend it right away. And they'll do it. And that keeps them impoverished, first off. But then they, even when they get 300 or 600 gold pieces, they're still pouring it into carousing to try to get that XP, which they see as the more valuable outcome. And it keeps them poor and hungry, right on the edge. And I think that's been a
Yep.
big factor. So even when you're level 5 or 6 in Shadowdark, you're still you're on the edge of poverty and death. And your hit points are low. That's another part of the system that's important. And so there's just these dynamics that keep pushing people down. And so even when you're at a high level, it feels like that low level dynamic when you're level 1 to 3.
Yeah, there's one thing I also like that you've done, like you touched on, is the low level stuff, like the low outcome isn't necessarily bad, and it isn't necessarily good. And I've seen other people do these tables where low is always going to have a more negative negative outcome, while the positive is always going to have a more highly a good outcome for the player. But here you have number 7, basically you're going to gain 4 XP and an ally becomes your knight. But then number 9 is you gain 5 XP, but a knight becomes your rival.
Yeah.
You've done this with the your other tables as well, which you touched on a little bit, which it kind of prevents the player from gaming the system by I think, oh yeah, I know if I save up X amount of gold, I'm going to get a bonus and I'm going to bypass all the negative stuff.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Or like if you look at number 4, they gain 3 XP, but the ally that they get is an erratic fanatic, right? So could get them into all kinds of trouble because this person's crazy. I worked with a guy who was an ex-Marine when I was in my high school years at Dave & Buster. I worked at Dave & Buster's for about a year. And this guy was like, he was the most loyal, friendly dude, but he just stirred shit, man. He would cause so many problems with people. He would get into fights. He would start getting into screaming matches with people. He was just this bit. He was huge too. He's, like, I'm 6'1", and he was taller than me. I don't know exactly what it was. Yeah, he was a big guy, huge, big, muscular guy. And he would because he thought nobody could mess with him, really. He felt invincible almost, I think. And he would just get into fights all the time, cause problems, push people around. Like, it was nuts. So the idea that guy's going to be your friend in a game like where people have magic and swords, like, oh Jesus. I try to throw in a little curveball.
That's not going to work. Yeah, like I done kickboxing for years, and I had fights and all that stuff. And when I hear stories like that, I'm like, oh no, he's gonna like get someone like badly hurt one day. Yeah, but as well, like in the GM companion, excuse me, you add pretty much, you basically expand upon the core stuff within the Shadowdark rulebook. Like you've more ways for different points of interest and creation. Like here, if you're on points of interest on coasts and deserts, And it's just going to add more and more to your game, and then your players might interact with them differently. And if you want to use it as your solo as well, you can do that. I think everyone's going to play a little bit different. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
and
And
you
it
could
goes
build a
into
whole
like
map like this. Have you
yeah,
ever heard of a campaign setting called Dwimmermount? It's about 10 years old now, I think. But it's basically
I
a mega
think so.
dungeon setting. And the guy who wrote it, I'd say his name, but I can't pronounce it right, so I'm not going to say it. But he's the guy who ran the Grognardia blog for a long time. Big figure in the old school Renaissance. James. People called him James Mal because his last name is Mal, and then a bunch of consonants and Polish syllables. I don't know how to pronounce it,
Yeah,
but
me either.
he had this idea that what he would do is he would make the dungeon kind of using the tools and guidelines that were in original D&D for how many rooms should be empty, how much treasure should be allocated to each room, all these different things. And when he did it, there was a lot of dissatisfaction from players in the OSR because they were used to there being something in every room, and they felt like there were way too many empty rooms, I think. But I always liked that idea at the core of what if you actually wrote a supplement where you randomly rolled everything out just to show how it would work. And so when I was working on this book, I tried to add everything that you would need to actually randomly make a Shadowdark setting. Everything.
Yeah.
So when you look at the points of interest, you're rolling for each, this by hex. So you'll have, Arctic
Your
hex.
Arctic
There's
here,
hardly
your
any
coast.
settlements, right? But if you go to a hex with more civilization, there's a lot more settlement outcomes. So when you're making those random rolls for each hex, you're going to end up with more cities in places where you'd want cities to be. You don't want to water deep in the frozen tundra. It needs to be somewhere that's temperate. So there was kind of a randomization here, and then a certain number of them you can see are hazards at the end, like the high number values are hazards, and they have different severities. And so different terrain types are going to be more likely to have a hazard, more likely to have a settlement, less likely to have a settlement. There's different things that are there. And I wanted it to be like if somebody sat down and they just wanted to randomly make their whole setting, that they could do it with these tables. So there's points of interest and hazards and settlements, and you can run everything
Shops,
off
taverns.
of the table.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is like you can start off with the points of interest, and everyone's going to work off like the location and development within like they have here differently, and then you have the different hazards they might have in each location or the type of ground they're in. Some of them are going to be like you might just get stuck in a swampy land for it slows down your walking speed and something like that. And then another time you might come across something that's toxic and is going to injure your players in some way. And then like you said, you talk about the settlements, and you're basically expanding upon and developing what's already in the core rulebook.
Kelsey had these really great ideas of having certain tables where you'd be rolling multiple times, and it would be the intersection of those things. So it would be a D20 table with two columns, and you roll two D20s, and then that's not just 40 options. That's 20 factorial options, whatever math genius wants to do the math on that. Like, it's a lot. There's a lot of possibilities that can come out of these tables. Those hazard tables are 2d6 tables, which give you a lot of variation. And it's not like you're going to keep rolling off of a d10 table and getting the same thing every time. This is like, you have a 1d6 going down and 1d6 going across, and it gives you a lot of different options and not a lot of overlap. So you're going to
Yeah.
get, and if you do get two similar things, they're probably going to be so far apart that the players won't realize it really for a long time. That's just, I think, is really a genius part of her table design.
Yeah, she was like testing this for years and years, apparently. And people, for some reason, people still think it was just slapped together and thrown out there. It's like
Yeah,
clearly a lot of anyone who says that they have not even opened the book or looked at a PDF of it.
that's right.
It is very well put together. It's very well play tested. You can tell from the get go. Everything makes sense. Everything is simple to the point, and that's one thing that's great because then it shows people who aren't sure how to create something with it. Because how many books have you read that you're just trying to find out like a simple spell or a simple piece of information about an item, and they go to like 2, 3, 4 paragraphs of repeating it to just say what but
I lost you a little bit on audio again.
yeah, like again.
So you're back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. It's I saw it there. So yeah. No, that's happened before, but it's still recording and picking everything up.
Yeah,
But
that's cool.
yeah, and then we go on the settlements and
Go
it's
down into the
expanding
settlement.
it out.
It's got those. Actually, go to the shops. The shops is one of the places where the taverns and stuff. There's tables with multiple columns. And so I guess the shops are just D20 tables, but yeah, the tavern generator there, right? So you're rolling 3 D20s, and you're getting a name and a second part of the name, and then a different thing. So
Two
each
names and what it's
tavern
known
you're
for.
going to roll up is going to be unique by a lot. The bronze mushroom that has lingering magical fog is going to be different than the slippery gobbler that has swirling dervish dances. Like it's going to give you these wild outcomes. And there's already one of these tables in Shadowdark. So with 2 of them, and these are hard tables to write, by the way, because you have to make sure all the name combinations work to some degree.
And they kind of flow together and make a bit of sense.
Up. Yeah. And so it can be challenging. Some of the names are better than others, but it's still, they all work in a grammatical sense, a conceptual sense. But yeah, it's tough to put together, but it really adds a huge amount of variation into the game to be able to just make the stuff every time.
There's one thing I also liked about this. It's about the shops. You have them categorized by the type, like poor shops, standard shops, and wealthy shops. People don't necessarily think about things like that, but I think it's a great thing to have because it's going to add a bit more, believability and immersion done by rolling, and you don't have
your gem cutter is not going to be operating in the slum district.
Yeah, because you'll get oftentimes like you'll have something equivalent to that in the poor district, maybe like they're going to be like a sneaky like a fence or something like that.
Fence,
but they're going to undercut you, and like you're going to get a fraction of the value, and Well, yeah, so it's just things like this which add to the immersion, and you don't have to. If like me as a DM or GM, I don't have to think, oh yeah, this is going to be this kind of shop here. It's only for poor people. I'll roll the dice. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or if I know what kind of shop it is I want it to be, I can look up on this and say, oh, the equivalent to that would be, there's a cobbler or whatever, or a normal tailor, as opposed to a fine tailor. People just say, oh, tailor.
We are assuming that people are rolling randomly, but a lot of times people just want to look at a list and come up with an idea without having to even roll. They just,
I do both.
Yeah, they don't have it at the top. They're like some player goes, I want to head to a tavern, and they don't have anything loaded in their head, but they just look at the list and go, oh, well, it's the saucy braggart, and there's
These names are
uncomfortable
so funny.
poetry readings going on. You know, like it's that kind of
Yeah,
like it's just they can read it in a second and put together the information that they need. Whereas if this was paragraph after paragraph of thing, it would be much harder to put it together.
yeah. And like within the settlements as well, you have different districts, and within the districts, they're going to have different points of interest, which you have here. And and just the D12, and there's a lot of them. It's
And
it's
all
it's
these
adding
add
more
to
and more.
the districts that are in the core
Yeah,
rule
the
book.
core rule book.
So there's like there's some overlap conceptually, like the religious
Hmm.
district is very similar to her temple district, but they're all different outcomes. So if you're tired of rolling off of the temple district table in the core rulebook, you can roll off of this religious district table, right? So
Hmm.
it's all of my stuff is designed to not replace what's in there, but to
A
extend it.
compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with
There's,
Terra
there's one thing.
Invictus, rather than have D20 tables or D100 tables, excuse me, for encounters, the way she has encounter tables, I made the D6 per hex. So if you want to roll off of her encounter tables, you totally can, or you can
Yeah.
roll off of those localized ones. It's all about just giving more choice to the person that's running the game.
Yeah, and there's ways you can do that as well. If you want to decide to have everything random like that, you could just flip a coin or roll a dice, just pick which book you're going to roll from, or pick from.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or just go, oh, I feel
And
like using
a lot
more
of
of this
people
or
are
more of that.
playing on VTT now. You can just type in, a
Yeah,
roll a D3 and it'll roll a D26. It'll
yeah.
give you whatever you need.
I think I have one of them. No, I have a D24 somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like people, I thought about briefly doing the deities as like a D117 table, but there's a lot of people going to be playing with dice. Can't really do that. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, 117 deities. There's 39 lawful, 39 neutral, 39 chaotic. So it comes out to a weird number. Like I said, I wish I could have just made a straight up table, but the numbers didn't line up for me so well. So
excuse me. Yeah. Again, I keep talking about this all the time. Anytime I talk about this book, I always go to the dungeons because it is one of my favorite parts. I think this is my favorite part, the dungeons, and my second favorite part is probably the points of interest and settlements. Um, just because I like big dungeons, and this provides an opportunity to expand upon, um, or creating an ability to have bigger dungeons without you deciding to keep rolling dice from the core rulebook.
yeah,
That
well,
was my
the
main
core
criticism of the
rulebook
core rulebook.
produces, on average, pretty small dungeons compared
Yeah,
to what you get in a lot of the old school dungeon crawls. And
you get a lot of
so
5 to 10 sort of size rooms.
yeah, so I made it so that you roll for a size, and that could be one level, or it could be up to potentially 7 levels down, and then each level is bigger the bigger the dungeon is. So a one level
Yeah,
dungeon has only got 5 d20s to rolling on the size, but massive one is getting 20 d20s for every level.
yeah,
Right. So as you go further down, it gets to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And but it's all generative, so it just comes together based on how you roll the dice.
yeah.
You
And
don't have to.
you roll them as you go along as well.
Yeah,
You don't
you
have
don't
to.
have to build it in advance. You can build
Yeah,
things on the fly a lot
room
of
by
times.
room. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I think that's something that people sometimes forget because there's been an over, I think, talking over representation or over talking about having prep nonstop. You see that a lot on
Yeah.
YouTube videos. I don't want to like say I'm bad about anyone, but like you have videos where people talk about, oh, I'm gonna have like a 3 or 4 hour D&D game. I need like at least that many hours of prep time. I'm like, what? No,
No,
just maybe
I'm
if you want to have a
playtesting.
general.
Yeah, right now I'm playtesting this book, Shadow City, which is an adaptation of the Shadowdark principles to Vampire. and I spend I spend a lot of time writing because there's still like I made these proofs to go to North Texas convention in about a week now, 2 weeks. So there's gaps in the tables, right? But
Yeah.
most of these are filled in now. So they've been filled in since I ordered. Because it takes like 2 or 3 weeks to get a print proof. But the stuff that I'm working on now is all of the kind of big generative tables, so I can still play test it easily. And
Yeah.
it has a system that's very similar to making a dungeon for building buildings in this city. And I can just sit down and roll the levels as they, they're like, we're going to take the elevator to the 3rd floor. And I'm like, all right, roll. Yeah, I'll just put into, I'm playing on Roll20, roll 4 d10s and then bam, there's your level. Like I don't have to think it up ahead of time and prep it and do all this. Part of the play testing is making sure that works on the fly, because you can screw that up in the writing. But I'm trying to work out all those kinks so that when you do sit down and play this, you can do it with zero prep. And anybody who's played Vampire the Masquerade, like the amount of prep time for a game like that is really big, because people are coming up with all these political plots and all this stuff. And this game plays like a dungeon crawl. Like it's a fast, quick. You're trying to survive from night to night to night. You're not getting into, oh, these are my feelings about being an immortal vampire. No. Like you're going to get killed by a gang member tomorrow if you don't get a better gun right now. It's brutal. And so I want to try to blend the Shadowdark wisdom with the vampire setting. And I know there's a ton of people, myself included, who really, really love playing Vampire Bloodlines on a computer game. And I think it may actually be on Xbox and PlayStation now, probably. But fantastic role-playing game. And it does not have a bunch of politics and stuff. It's a combat dungeon crawler, right? And so I thought, how could I make the vampire experience be this intense and fun and quick, rather than it being we're going to plot against each other for years and years and work things out. I want it to be fast and brutal. The thing I love about Shadowdark is how you're always right about to die. That's great.
Yeah.
It keeps people.
You can go into a room
also,
or dungeon.
Yeah. If your
combat could
character
end
can get killed by a stick, you are paying close attention to who's moving close to you and where people are standing in combat. But if your character can soak up 10 rounds of damage before it starts to get to be a problem, then people's attention drifts. They don't pay attention as much. Yeah. But when you're down to that last 4 hit points, you're paying attention real quick. You're really on top of things. So that's
those 4 hit points might be your only hit points until you level up as well.
My last Shadowdark character was a thief. Started with 1 hit point. He was the only one to survive a near TPK, and he carried the best stuff back to town to level up to level 2. So that he survived. He was the only one with 1 hit point, and he was the only one that made it. And the reason he made it is because he skirmished and kept falling back with a ranged weapon while his friends tried to fight in melee and got slaughtered. So it worked out. It worked out good. Then later he had, I think, 4th level. He had like 12 hit points. There was another near TPK, and he was the only one that survived. And I actually was watching one of Kelsey's live streams, and I wrote in the comments like that this has happened. Kelsey, give me some advice for them not thinking that I'm working to kill them all each time, because it's getting a little bit too convenient that I'm the only one who survives these TPKs. And she gave I can't remember what it was, but she gave a really great humorous reply. But it's like, that's the way it is in Shadowdark. You're right about to die every time.
Yeah.
You know, like a
That's
lot of times you have to leave stuff on the field of battle to get away alive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that drew me to Shadowdark was it feels like AD&D or one of those older editions, but everything's cleaned up. It's delivery of the rules is straightforward. It's simple. You're not trying to interpret anything. Layout is great. It's quick. It's fun. You can roll up a character in like 2 minutes. So if
Yep.
someone dies, you can roll up another character, or if you have a characters ready and maybe
I just
introduce
use
them
the
in like 20,
website,
30
the
minutes.
Shadow Darkling's
Yeah, a lot
website.
of people do.
Just
Yeah,
click. I have a new character. It takes
yeah.
1 second. Yeah.
It's so handy, and that's another thing that people who haven't picked it up who might be criticizing it is, again, it's everything just works. Like when people talk about the torch mechanic, like the real time torch mechanic, when you're a big group of people and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go in like a dungeon or something like that, but then there's conflict between the players and they're trying to decide, the torch is slowly burning out, and then maybe you have like, I know people usually have like an alarm set on their phone so they know like when a time is
Yeah.
coming down. They're like 15 minutes, ring, 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 and they're all like, "Oh no, shit, what's going on?
Yeah.
Do we have any more torches left?" That just adds to the drama, and you don't get that from just reading the book.
One of the things that people, this is kind of just shows how shallow people's thinking are a lot of times, is they focus on the realism or mechanical essence of a particular thing without considering the table ramifications of it. So I made a Twitter post a while ago about this. This is an argument I had with one of my friends, Joe the lawyer. He has a YouTube channel, Joe's Analog Man Cave, I think is the title.
Yeah, I
And
think I follow him actually. Yeah,
yeah, and he's a great guy, but he was like, I just don't like this and I don't like that. And he was like, if I want to track encumbrance or if I want to track the torch light, I'll just do that. And my response to him was, yeah, but will you? You can do a lot of things. You can run the most complex mechanical system and you can track every single subsystem and you can do that. But will you do that? Because what happens is people will play a game that has all these rules about encumbrance and it's calculating that you can have 5 small items equals 1 large item, and then you can have this many large items. Adventure Conquer King, I love it to death, but it tracks everything in stone, like the English medieval unit. Well, you guys still use stone, actually, I think. Over in, well, not
one
you,
of many
maybe
units we use.
in the UK they do, at least, I think.
Oh yeah, we kilos and
Yeah,
stones.
but it's like, will you do all that tracking or will you just end up hand waving it? So the idea of, yes, it's kind of not realistic that the torch would last 1 hour of real time, but what the practical impact is of doing that is that it forces you to really track how much you're using up torches, rather than just writing down that you have 3 torches on your character sheet and then nobody cares, nobody checks it, nobody even looks for hours and hours and hours of play, right? By making it so that you're keeping track of it, even if it's an unrealistic method, right? It results in it being tracked. Having 10 or 12 or however many gear slots you end up getting, it might be like, well, is this really realistic? But set that aside. Does it make you really keep track of your equipment? Yes. When you're playing Shadowdark, you're way more aware of what's in your backpack. You're keeping, okay, I can't grab that extra thing because this chainmail is taking up a lot of weight and I've got a 2-handed sword and I've got this stuff. I can't carry 15 items. I got to get it down to 12, right? Like it's a challenge. And that's been one of the things I think is great is it's not that people can't track encumbrance or torches or whatever. It's that they don't. But by having these systems, it forces you to track them, and they're easy to use systems. A lot of people don't like the way that she does initiative, but they're like, well, it's not, I might have some complaint about realism again or some other thing. And I say, but what it does is it just structures the play. That's all it does. It structures it. If you have everybody roll initiative, and then you go from, you have to rank all of those rolls on a hierarchy, and then you go down one by one by one by one. That takes longer than if you just have everybody roll and you go with the fastest person, and then you go clockwise from there. So is it realistic that the guy who rolled 15 initiative is going fourth after the person who rolled a 17 initiative just because the 17 was a couple of seats over at the table? Like, no, that's not realistic per se, but it makes it so you're saving time. You're not wasting time trying to figure out whose initiative it is. It's his initiative, then his, then his, then his, and we're done. Like, we don't have to go into all the, oh, you have a 14 and I have a 12 and I should go next because of it's easy. It's done. And that's, I think, the brilliance of the system is it's designed so you don't have to constantly be, wasting your time on things that don't matter. It focuses all your attention on the things that do matter.
Yeah, it makes everything run smooth for the players, so the players are always engaged. Partially because they have to keep an eye on the torch system, and also because if they blink, the next thing they know,
it
they've an
encourages
orc
them to act more
stabbing them in the
quickly.
gut.
Yeah.
So all these things, they all just come together, and it's like a compounding effect on everything just working together. Like I think she said before, she was testing this for like 4 or 5 years.
I don't know exactly how long. I know she did a lot. Ignorant people will say, she was an overnight success. No, nobody's an overnight success. What it is you weren't aware of them until then. That's all it is, right? So like Chubby Funster has been publishing stuff since 2010. Chubby Funster didn't just appear out of nowhere. You just weren't, you weren't aware of Chubby Funster for all that time. So it's not, I'm not magical. I didn't just pop out of the sky. Like, you have to build up an audience and practice your craft and get better at it. And then finally you come up to where more people are aware of you. And to those people, it seems like you're an overnight success, but you're not. You're not. Nobody writes their first role-playing game and it's freaking, any award-winning awesome. It just doesn't happen. Yeah, it doesn't happen.
It's time, it's dedication, it's practice, and also luck. Everything has to come together.
She had a huge lucky strike in that Wizards of the Coast decided to destroy their empire right before she launched her Kickstarter. And Wizards of the Coast was like, hey, I'd like to steal from you and spit in your face. And everybody was like, F you. And then Shadowdark launched and they were like, I'm giving my money to her instead of you. And that was luck. That was the lucky component. But there's a old Chinese quote, I think, that people throw around is that, opportunity is, being prepared for whatever the opportunity. It's not just random luck. You've got to have the preparation to get the opportunity in the first place, or else the opportunity will just float right by you. I mangled the shit out of that idea, but sorry. But, that's,
I get what you mean. Yeah.
You have to be prepared, just like, if you're not set up in the tree with your weapon and you're laying there quiet and you're ready to shoot, when the deer walks by, the deer will just walk by. Like, you just won't be ready. So it's that kind of like, you have to, if you're trying to do it, you have to be prepared to shoot when the opportunity comes. And most people are not. They're just not.
And that's why I have my 308.
That's the way it is. You can't just walk out and be like, I'm going to hunt a deer today. I've never shot a gun before in my life. I've never fired a bow and arrow. I'm going to chase the deer down with my stick. Like that. you're gonna lose. Like that's sorry, but
Yeah,
if you want to do it, you have to invest time and practice and figure out what you're gonna do. You know, that's true of anything. It's true of
yeah.
cooking. It's true of woodworking. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you have to invest time in building yourself up.
And like even with like creation stuff for games as well, each system you're trying to create for there's a learning curve.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like you said, you've created things for ACKS, and then I think another reason why I think a lot of creators like Shadowdark is it is. I think I don't know if it is easier, but maybe it feels easier
It
to. I don't know.
it does. I can actually give you a behind the scenes tour. I don't want this to reflect negatively on Alexander McCree. So let me say this ahead of time. You know, I love Adventure Conquer King. It's fantastic. Okay, so I'm not criticizing it at all, but I'm just going to show you the difference. I'm opening up the InDesign file now. I started down the road of trying to convert ShadowSun to Adventure Conquer King, and the amount of details that are required to do that, right? So here, um, that's up. Yep. Okay. So I, converted it, and you have, some of the things are just, text. This is just copied straight over.
Hmm.
But then when you get to like character classes, right, you've got way more going on in an Adventure Conquer King character class than
Yeah.
in a Shadowdark character class. You know, a whole template list, a set of proficiencies. You've got to have. Are you going to make new proficiencies? Are you going to have the same proficiencies?
Hmm.
But powers, tricks. There's so much to convert over. It's very daunting, right? And I love ShadowSun. I love Adventure Conquer King, but the amount of work involved is challenging. You know, like that was all the human classes that I just went through. Like these are the demi-human classes. So like I just have it kind
Yeah,
of in a
there's a
partially
lot going on.
constructed form, but it's so much to put together that
Yeah.
eventually it becomes, I have more passion for working on a particular thing or another particular thing. I hope to one day finish my Adventure Conquer King version of ShadowSun, but whew, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
very
Like
challenging.
I know a lot of people are getting their Kickstarters for ACKS at the moment, and they're coming in, and people who've played the PDFs, and they love it. They think it's great, and I think it's great for people who love minute detail and everything.
That's right.
It's like the people who will love like all the details you get with AD&D would love ACKS. You track everything. You know where everything is gonna go and be, and just go
Oh yeah,
crazy.
and
there's
I've
there's a
written
place for all this. There's a
I've
place for
written two
Rose
products
Light
for
and
I've written two products for ACKS, and let me pull up the map for Gavardia. This is the JPEG. Um, so I wrote a setting for ACKS called Warlords of Gavardia, and the idea was this is something I wish existed for Adventure Conquer King's native setting, the Aran Empire. It just doesn't. He's got a limited amount of time. As somebody with a very limited amount of time, I completely understand that.
Mhm.
But I was like, well, I'm going to do this. So I like making maps. There's kind of I don't know, it's like a Zen-like piece to just working on a map for a while. It's not writing, you're creating visually. But this is the whole empire at this level, right? And there's
Mhm.
borders. You can see there's a thin blue border
Yeah.
around each province, and then there's whole areas on the sides of the map that are not within the empire, right? This whole coast right here is not within the empire, and each province is different. This is a province where it's dwarfs. This is a province where it's elves, and then a lot of them are human. And when you go, like, this is a, maybe British Isles size island where they only have a foothold here. And you zoom in, and it has, there's 9,800 hexes on this
Oh my
map.
god.
And all of this stuff is here. Now, I've provided the level of detail that you need for Adventure Conquer King. It has each city and location has market sizes. Each hex has a land quality and all this stuff. So if you wanted to become the Duke of this upper river area here, I can give you the name of the family and the exact tax revenue that they're bringing in, and you can start out right at guy with an army level instead of as an adventurer. It's
Oh wow.
adventurer, conqueror, king, right? So you can start out as the conqueror, you can start out at a king level. But people have generally, I think, been playing ACKS as adventurers, and they're afraid to switch it over to Conqueror. But I think
This
it's great.
one,
It's a great system. Go ahead.
this is the one you created for ACKS, the original ACKS, is it?
This is for ACKS 2.
Oh, ACKS 2. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
yeah, because I think you had stuff for ACKS, the original one, didn't you?
no, I didn't. I did have some kind of generic old school stuff.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't sell as well as if you make it for a specific system.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the Italy of this Roman Empire, so to speak.
Yeah.
And this empire is set on a Carthaginian Venetian type basis rather than a Roman Republic or Empire basis. So there's a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of, I think, great
It's
world
so
building here.
detailed.
That goes through, each of these cities has a population and rulers and all that stuff. And you could say, I'm going to start here, and my plan is going to be to invade this. These are beastmen, orcs, goblinoids, etc. So I'm going to invade, and I'm going to settle this river valley here. And that could be your kind of campaign goal. And I like I said, I wish it was more. I wish there were more people interested in playing this way. I just, unfortunately, right now they're not.
Yeah, I think it usually takes time anyway. Because
well, I mean, people just got their hard books, so
yeah, it's going to take a while. Like, look at like Shadowdark. There was really only like 2 or 3 sort of setting books for like the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then between the last few months and the next few months, there's going to be like 4 or 5 out from like well known in like the RPG space people, like, so it just takes time until things just catch on. If you look on like DriveThruRPG, if you look at, again, I'm just going to say Shadowdark, a few months ago there was like 450, 500 items you could buy. Now it's double that in the last like 3 months, 4 months. So it's everything. It's when things become more popular slowly and out of nowhere, like you said, it's like someone just popped up out of nowhere.
That's right. Yeah. But those books take a long time to write. Like, it's very easy to put out a art-free PDF that's just tables and stuff that you exported out of Word. It's a lot harder to put together 200, 300-page books that are coherent, that have balance in their design, that have coverage over wide territories with hexes, and so like that takes a long time to write. And Shadowdark's second Kickstarter for Western Reaches really, I think, showed people how many. A lot of times they'll have a Kickstarter and people will buy it, but then they don't end up playing the game very much. But the second Kickstarter showed people are really playing this game a lot.
Yeah,
and it's not it's not just a book they put on their shelf.
Oh yeah, you have a lot of people returning for the Western Reaches, but you also had a lot of people coming for the first time.
That's right.
And then you have to take into account all the people who bought the book after the Kickstarter, because I bought the book after Kickstarter. After the Kickstarter, I just found out after Kickstarter ended. It was came out
Oh
Kickstarter.
man,
I was like, God damn it! Ugh. So then I had to wait. I waited so like it took obviously all the Kickstarters got sent out, and I was waiting for the alert to come out. It was on sale at the store, and the second it came up, I put on my phone. I got it, and I think within the same day they were all sold out, or 2 days.
that's right.
You know,
I have a bad habit
pure luck.
of when somebody is interested in a particular game, I will just gift them the book, because a lot of times I have the book, but I mostly use the PDF because I'm playing on VTT all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm much more comfortable with the PDF in terms of instantly I could jump around. I can just, I'll know that, like with Shadowdarks, I've referenced it so many times for writing and for playing it. I just be like, okay, that's on roughly page 90. Boop, jump to that page, flip around. And like, especially like in the monsters, I can almost tell you what page number monster is based on what it's because it starts on page 190 and then it goes for and it's just different. I have no problem giving away a book because I usually just use a PDF. But with Shadowdark, a friend of my daughter's, and he was like, "Can I borrow this book?" And I was like, "No, this is my book. I'm not giving away this Shadowdark hardcover because I don't know how easily it will be able to acquire another one in the future."
Yeah.
I can get another D&D 3.5 or whatever. I can get another book. I can get another copy of Vampire or whatever. But if Shadowdark, I'm not even loaning that thing out because who knows? I don't know when I'll have another chance to grab one. With it being in Kickstarter and it's not in stores, I'm just gun shy.
Yeah, like it's kind of amazing how popular it's become. Like it's basically an indie game that kind of blew up and then blew up again with the second
Yeah.
Kickstarter, and
Well,
that shut a lot of people up.
I hesitate to make predictions because even let's say you predict 100% growth of something. If it gets 80% growth, people will be like, "Well, you were wrong." I'm like, 80% is a lot of growth, So I hesitate to make predictions, but I really think Shadowdark is in a lot of ways a industry reset point. And this is, I think, you can see this in how Wizards of the Coast has handled the 2024 release and basically everything just been dropped off the cliff, because I think they realized that this has happened. So I think Shadowdark and OSC together, I'll give OSC a lot of credit too. They basically made it so that there was enough of an option for a significant percentage of the player base to not play Wizards of the Coast material. And people have just, Shadowdark was kind of the death knell of it for Wizards of the Coast. They Shadowdark is now taking 5th edition people like crazy out into the old school renaissance. And so my prediction is kind of that this is a reset point for them, for the whole hobby. It's my hope that Wizards of the Coast will abandon tabletop altogether and purely focus on digital and video games and just treat it like a brand. Maybe they might license it out to somebody who knows what they're doing, but I don't have a lot of hope for that. They seem intent on destroying themselves, and they don't care what their own customer wants. If I was releasing books and people were not just, I'm not going to buy this book, but defiantly anti what I'm doing and telling me that I'm ruining my own product. And I also don't understand why they have this perspective of we're going to release a thing and we're going to kill our prior thing that you do like. So fourth edition is the best example of this. That was their first attempt at suicide, essentially. We're gonna.
It's also my first edition I played, by the way.
Yeah, we're gonna stab ourselves in the face. We're gonna say,
Yeah.
not only are we
Very
coming
different.
out with a new edition, but we're gonna burn the old edition. And so many people were upset about that Paizo basically became second place rival to Wizards of the Coast with Pathfinder. And it's just ridiculous why they couldn't have released fourth edition as D&D Tactics and kept third edition as a base and sold both. You know, like if I make a player companion equivalent for the Western Reaches, I'm not going to stop selling the original player companion. And I'm definitely not going to tell everybody who has the player companion to not use it anymore. Like, why would you do that? I have no idea why they do these things. And so we're reaching the point now where I think Shadowdark, OSC, Castles and Crusades. I'm not really big into Castles and Crusades, but my understanding is it's a big force as well with a lot of people. And we've got a lot of pressure for people to come away from Wizards of the Coast and try something different, try something new. And I think it's working. I think we're getting a lot of movement away from Wizards of the Coast. I think they're going to be struggling. I hope that they just give up. I hope that they don't try anymore. They just move over to making video game licenses. And I mean, their VTT failed utterly. I wish them all the worst. And I'm happy to have people in the center of the hobby who really care about the hobby and care about what people are playing and caring about how much they like what people are playing, and not treating the customer like somebody that needs to be educated on how they're wrong. It's just stupid. I don't know why they do these things. They're hemorrhaging money for it. They're just throwing money away that they could easily just be collecting, like picking up off the ground, like free money. I don't know why they do the things that they do. Now, I see that we've lost you for a little bit. I'm going to kind of stop talking here and wait for you to come back. But I wanted to finish that thought so you could cut it out. Hey.
I think that wasn't me this time. I think that was StreamYard.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I was still in here, and I just
my internet on everything else was working.
Yeah, I just finished the thought so you could cut it and edit it however you want it.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was StreamYard side because my internet was perfect there. So
yeah, I hope it caught it.
I say I did because you're connected, so it all goes together, you know. Anyway, but yeah, so yeah, with Wizard as well. I just don't care.
Yeah,
that's it. To them, D&D is like is what I described it as. It's a drop in the ocean for them.
Yeah,
at the end of the day,
they're making tons
they're
of money.
Only using it. Yeah, they're only using it to sort of occupy a space. They're a big business. They're like, oh, we'll just take away from smaller people. We don't really give a shit. You know, it's like some companies that have big brands and they just like put out a product so they get to renew the license so someone else doesn't get to pick it up. That's the way I think they're treating it.
Yeah, I think that it's not that they hate their audience in a sense. I think it's that there are certain moral things that they view as more important than giving the customer what they want. And I'll take it in another direction. Let's talk about it as if it's coffee. Let's say that you have a coffee shop and you could be a huge coffee maker like Starbucks or whatever, it doesn't matter. But your customers are coming in and the customer prefers there to be milk in their coffee. Mm-hmm. Whatever. You can do that. You can provide milk and make a profit as a business. That's what businesses are supposed to do. Or this is what Wizard of the Coast does, is they say, you're wrong for wanting to put milk in the coffee. We're not going to sell you milk in the coffee. We refuse to put it on. If you bring your own milk, we will denounce you in front of the other customers for being bad, right?
Yeah.
Now, that is just taking all the money that people want to give you and throwing it in the trash.
And lighting the trash on fire.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's not that they're, because I've had people tell me, well, they're not stupid or they're not what. They're blinded by their hatred of milk that they won't sell you a coffee with milk in it. That's all it is. They are so obsessed with preventing you from putting milk in your coffee that they are giving up all the revenue from that. And the success of ShadowSun is totally evidence of that. They do not want to make Dark Sun. They don't want to do anything to make you even feel like you can play Dark Sun. They'll publish Dark Sun on DriveThruRPG and then put little disclaimers saying this product is bad, basically, on it, which is ridiculous. If you think it's bad, don't sell it, right? Like, what the hell are you even doing?
You can't provide X and then say B about something. It's not.
Here's my philosophy book. It's evil. Don't read it. Like, what? What are you talking about?
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
I don't know why they do these things. But they're so obsessed with the morality that they cannot just let people play the way they want, get the books that they want. It's just willful moralizing. They just cannot let you do it. You can't put milk in your coffee. Like, why? Why do you care? I don't even know. It's such an insane thing. And this new Daggerheart thing that's coming out, not Wizards of the Coast, obviously, same mind disease. They're putting out stuff where you go into the evil caverns in the example adventure, and there's chain restaurants. Right, they actually call them chain restaurants.
I saw you post on this on X. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and you can tell. Like, I don't want to make it political, but it's just people who they don't understand violence. They don't understand how cultures and civilizations interact. Like, if your people are coming out of the dungeon to attack my town, I'm not going to go into your dungeon full of people who are attacking my town and stop by your Starbucks and have a coffee with the people who are trying to kill me. Like, what? It doesn't even make sense. And there was somebody, I can't remember who, a long time ago, said, like, there's a certain class of people that are like, they're like rabbits in a meadow, have no idea what a predator even is. And they're just bounding around. And then when they get eaten, they're like, what? How did this happen to me? Like, no awareness of how the real world works or how violence works or anything like that. I'm like, this is a game where people are stabbing each other to death, where you're burning people's faces off with magic spells, and you're concerned that I take a prisoner and enslave them instead of murder them? What is the better outcome, for me to murder everyone or for me to bring along manacles and enslave someone? Which is worse? Murder? Like, why are they not they're not worried about the murdering. So why are they so intent on the slavery in Dark Sun or anything else with other settings? They don't just that. It boggles my mind. Like, why?
But have you considered just get along?
Yeah,
it's
let's
like
let's all go on our adventure to the scone restaurant and hang out and and will eat scones. I'm like, that's fine. That's not D&D. That's not role playing games, you know. And one of the problems with the reason why D&D is more successful than Star Wars role playing, than generic sci-fi role playing like Traveller, than Vampire, than all these other things is because they don't have dungeons. Dungeons are an exceptionally good organizational tool that you can create basically nodes where you can go from here to here, but you can't go this way, and you have to follow the, you know, there's a limited number of paths through the dungeon, and you can do this stuff. It just structures the interactions. That's all it is, really. From a game perspective, you know, you can't encounter this thing until after you've encountered that thing, and so on. That's all it is. And you don't have those in other settings, or they're so unique. Like in Star Wars, if you travel from one planet to the other, the idea that the map is going to look identical is insane. But like a dungeon map can just be a dungeon map, right? Like people don't. So people have a lot harder time creating dungeons outside of Dungeons and Dragons, outside of medieval fantasy, I guess, as a general rule. And that's all it is. It's just a way of structuring play, but it's a game where people go into hostile locations and murder people and take stuff, right? That's what it is.
That's the basic gameplay.
So why is there a McDonald's open in this place? I have no idea. I have no idea why you would even do that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, you know what it is. I think I know what it is. They're trying to appeal to everyone while trying not to offend anyone, and
That's right.
That just makes it into a boring gray goop.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
You know, it's
like when I was doing Warlords of Gavardia. I'll actually pull it up because I can just show exactly what I'm talking about. Each province has its own kind of cultural differences. Now, one of the things I tend to criticize is having perfect, you know, this is medieval Persia, this is medieval Italy, whatever, you know, try to mix things up. And so let me just get to the spot here where I have different places. Okay, let's share this. Right, so this, what I'm sharing is the main province, the kind of the Italy of the setting. And the people have a language that is kind of Spanish Portuguese, and a lot of the naming conventions are Spanish Portuguese. And there's domes and blue tiled roofs and light yellow masonry, which is kind of Andalusia, medieval Andalusia in southern Spain, right? And every province has architecture and festivals and so on, right? The people dress in what is kind of Indian, not Native American, and in their style of dress, and they have a cuisine balance that is kind of French, and there's a little bit of Mediterranean influence, and there's all these different things, different parts of different cultures, right?
Yeah.
Then when you go to another province, they've got, these are mound builders like Mississippian Native Americans. They have a barley festival. They have flowing white robes because it's very hot. So it's kind of like a
reflect away the sun and the heat.
You know, it just everything is being mixed up so that every province has its own unique flavor, but it's not a copy of any location. This place has a tower culture that is similar to Georgia in the Caucasus. I live in the state of Georgia in the U.S., so I'm always trying to clarify that. Yeah, this is from
Yeah.
Georgia
I think
in Europe.
Americans always
Yes.
think of the state, and everyone else thinks of the
Yeah.
country.
And then, but their language has Indonesian tones to it, right? Now, the reason why I go through this is there are people who will look at one element of a culture in a book, in a game book, and go, this is racist, this is negative towards some culture or whatever. None of these provinces is negative, right? They're just different people doing different things. But people will read racism or sexism or cultural imperialism or some crap into it, no matter how much you try to shake things up, right? You know, oh, my culture eats cabbage, squash, and corn. So you're saying that I am from this province. Like, no, I'm not. I'm saying this is a fantasy province that doesn't exist, right? Like,
Those people are looking for problems
yeah,
all the time
exactly.
in
And
everyday life. Doesn't matter
and
what
if
it is. Never mind
I
in
wanted to
fantasy.
design this book so that it didn't have anything that anybody could be offended by in that way, I would have to just strip all of these things out, right? Like, you couldn't have it in the book. And that's what D&D, that's what Wizards of the Coast has done, is they've removed anything that could cause anyone to see themselves in the work. And they can't get offended if they can't see themselves in the work, but they don't like it either. You don't, if I can't see anything that I could empathize with or want to be a part of, right? Then why would I want to join? Why would I want to play in this world? Right?
Yeah.
So
That goes back to the gray goop.
Yeah, people have to have something that they want to do, want to be a part of. Oh, I like this province because it has, there's one I'm trying to think of, it's Ashar. Here it is. Okay, yes, these this place has a festival. I guess right here. Okay, yeah. So they have a spring wind festival where the two, it's an island. Okay, so it's about the size of maybe Crete. Okay, so in the spring wind festival, these people are very dependent on wind. They take the two ugliest people on the island, and that's chosen by vote. So that means the part of the culture is voting on the ugliest people from your town, right? These people are marked with ashes and pig blood and then chased around the island until one of them is killed and stoned to death and burnt. And that ensures that they have strong winds, right? Now, I totally made that up. It's not from any culture. But if I had used a festival from a real culture like that, somebody would be like, oh, that's my, that's what we do in my town. We chase the ugly people. And then it'd be fun, like, but there's going to be a group of people that read this and go, I got to be on the island when this happens. That's what I want. I want a party to go. That's
interesting.
The end. Winter is wrapping up. We need to sail to Ashar so we can take part in the ugly person chase. And that's. If you don't have things that people want to participate in, then they just won't like your product. They won't like your game, whatever you're making. You
need to have something that's it knows what its identity is. It knows what it's trying to achieve and who it wants to target. You're not trying to target the gray goop of the world. You are trying to get people who want interesting things and places to go.
Yeah. So like when I was saying earlier that you could be a nobleman, like, so this noble family, the Cabravale, they control all these hexes as like a duke, essentially. And they've got viscons that are underneath them that control smaller territories. And they've got individual hidalgos or counts at those levels. And it has all the population and everything, so you can do all that. I want the person who wants to run an Adventure Conquer King game and be that noble of the Cabravale family and another person in the group is the Metrashito family, right? Like whatever it is, and they go, and that's what they want to do. But there's going to be a lot of people that look at this and go, I don't want to do that. And that's cool. That's fine. But I wanted, I made this product so that there would be something for the person who wanted to do it that way, right? But if I'm going to jump into a long commitment to play as one of these families, then I want it to be an interesting world that they're playing in. I don't want it to just be, this is just like Britain. Like, I love Britain, but damn, everything doesn't have to be Britain. But that's the kind of, Wizards of the Coast is just afraid to put anything out there that would be spicy enough that people would want it. And so nobody wants it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think as they went along with last edition and the new one, excuse me, they kind of more and more, again, they sort of start kicking the old editions and all the old stuff that everyone liked. They're like, nah, this is crap. This is bad. This is evil. If you like this, there's something wrong with you, the player who wants, or the consumer who wants to buy something from us. We're just going to insult you all the time. And eventually people are just like, I'm going to go over here where they're like, let's go kill goblins and orcs in a dungeon because they're evil bastards and they're not your best friend. I don't want my orcs to be good guys because they're not. They're evil. They're
As a writer,
they're going to pillage, they're going to rape, they're going to eat people.
Yeah. As a writer, if there's a product out there that you feel is morally reprehensible, don't rewrite the product. Write your own product that's not morally reprehensible in your eyes and play that. The idea you're going to go back and take somebody else's work that has ideas that they developed that people love, and you're going to change it to be something different. If I want to make a superhero that has some kind of ice power, I'm not going to take Spider-Man, call my superhero Spider-Man, and give him ice powers, right? That's ridiculous. Yeah. Like, make your own dude. Like, make your own thing. I don't get why. But to go back and take, this came up very recently with City State of the Invincible Overlord, but it's come up with tons of Wizards of the Coast material, where somebody will be like, I'm going to take this old work and I'm going to resurrect it and I'm going to make it better. I'm going to fix the moral problems of it. Yeah. If you want to remake City State of the Invincible Overlord so that you can add tons of new content in the same vein that the existing content is, and you want to expand the map and you want to add dungeons that you've developed or whatever, hey, awesome. But to say, I'm going to take it and I'm going to make it into a new product that's good. I just don't even understand why anybody would do that. Just make your own thing.
I saw that video and I was like, oh my God, this is like a hostage video. It's ridiculous. It was embarrassing. Yeah. I think it was embarrassing to watch. And I read the comments and people just tuned out real quick. It was just, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a dumb business idea to be telling all of the people who would be your core supporters that the work that they love has problems and you're going to fix it. That, from a business perspective, suicidal. I don't understand. Like, who's like, oh, thank God this person is going to lead me into the light. What reaction do they think it's going to have?
Yeah.
Like, if I was like, I'm going to remake the Conan the Barbarian movies, but this time he's going to be real nice and he's going to like to cuddle and he likes to talk down his enemies with love and some crap like that. Like, who do you think's going to watch this movie? It's not going to be Conan fans. Like, why would you destroy the thing that you're trying to leech off of? I can totally get wanting to leech off of it and make a Conan whatever number, 8. We're going to make Conan 8. It's going to be the best Conan ever. It's going to have all this stuff. Hey, that's cool. Like, make it. But don't make it and be like, we're going to change everything about Conan. Like, why? Why not just make your own thing?
Yeah, you just make your own thing, call it something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like this revolutionist idea of destroying the past. Yep. I think that's where it comes from. If they know it or not, that's what's going on.
Yeah. It's about control and trying to steal things from people. Really, I mean, like, because it's not, if Wizards of the Coast decided they're going to redo DarkSun, and they started making all these changes, the purpose, the moral purpose behind it would be to make it so that if somebody isn't playing their new version, then that person is backward and bad and whatever. And people hate this message. I don't know why it's taken so long for a lot of these companies to wise up, but let me put milk in my coffee, to use the earlier example. Why do you need to tell me what I can and can't put in my damn coffee?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Like, I bet you if they try to put out a DarkSun now, they would make it Barney the dinosaur in a desert.
Oh yeah.
But someone's going to complain about the shade of purple on Barney.
Yeah, it would be so horrible. It would be so horrible.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's what. Yeah. When I saw the opportunity there, I was like, I like DarkSun. I'm going to make ShadowSun to be sufficiently different that it's not an IP violation against DarkSun. Mm-hmm. But people who want to play a game in a gritty desert where there's no metal and it's rough and there's all this monstrous stuff that wants to kill you, they can do it without giving $1 to Wizards of the Coast. And they can do it without relying on scans from 30 years ago product. I mean, let's just start fresh. These people hate it. So let's just do it without them. We don't need Wizards of the Coast for anything.
Yeah, and the people out there like yourself, to be honest, I think they're far more creative. Like, these guys will have like half an army of guys writing, and they write like, what's that thing they put out a couple of years ago? It was like a prom adventure thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh my, that's not.
Well,
that's not Dungeons and Dragons.
I've called this it's not my thing. I think that somebody else uses it. I think Critical Drinker for on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
The Hemingway effect of the people who are writing this. They haven't been through wars. They haven't been through hardship. They haven't crossed a desert. They haven't even sailed a boat. They haven't done anything in their real life. They get up. They went to school. They rode the bus home. And then they went to college, and they drove to class, and then they drove back home, and they ate at McDonald's, and they ate at Applebee's, and then they graduated, and now they live in an apartment, and they work in an office, and they've never done anything. And so how are these people going to come up with great stories about trials and tribulations and struggle when the hardest thing they've ever had to do was get the charges reversed on some credit card fraud that happened once? That's been the great challenge of their life. So we need more people writing who have been through difficult situations, who've had to face very challenging problems. Those are the people who can write good stories. And
I'm going to say something here. I think it should be mandatory that everyone does at least 6 months of a manual labor job. That would start a lot of people out big time.
Yeah,
they'd get a bit more reflective on reality.
I worked at a movie theater for 4 years. It wasn't manual labor, but it was very physically demanding because you have to stand up, You had to move around. You constantly, working things. This was back when a lot of people went to movies. When I go to a movie theater now, I'm like, oh gosh, these people really have it easy. But when I was working it, there was a ton of action all the time. And after I got out of that, I'm like, I don't want to go back to having to work in that environment all the time. It's hard. Dealing with people is hard. Dealing with customers. I had a woman try to take her 9-year-old son to see what was it? Saving Private Ryan. Okay. And to be fair, there wasn't. It was a time when there wasn't as many reviews and stuff like that available for somebody to do. And so I said, ma'am, I just want to make sure you know this is an extremely violent movie. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. I'm selling her a ticket, right? I'm like, I want to sell you the ticket. I just, and she went and complained to my manager because I had tried to tell her what to do. And I was like, all I said was, I wanted you to be aware of what the movie was. And when she went to my manager, he was like, oh yeah, you should not take your son to see this movie. It's insanely violent. And you'll harm this 9-year-old by taking him. And then she walked off in a huff. People dealing with the public is it's no joke. And
yeah, that same type of person.
Yeah,
that same type of person. If you told her, "Oh, this contains like something she happened to be allergic to," she'd then get annoyed that you're telling her.
That's right. Yeah,
I'm trying to save you here.
I'm trying to help you. This product contains peanuts. Are you allergic to peanuts? Yeah, it's not. People are crazy. People are crazy. My daughter works at a soft serve frozen yogurt place where you go around and kind of fill up a cup and put ingredients on it and they weigh it. And the insane customer, she had a customer who threw plastic spoons at her because she was trying to help a little kid who had spilled some stuff.
That's insane.
Like, what? Like, people are just nuts.
Disturbed.
People are nuts, man.
I couldn't do a job like that, mainly because I'd break someone's neck. Like, I'm not joking. Like, if someone's in my face, I'm getting in there. I'll tell them back off. Like,
I'm a big guy and I have big linebacker shoulders, and nobody gets in my face. But
I'm not a big guy.
I can definitely see why a lot of people that have smaller build have to deal with somebody trying to physically intimidate them. But that doesn't happen to me. We were in Paris a couple of years ago at the Eiffel Tower, and we were just waiting for an Uber. And I was sitting down, and anybody who's ever been on a trip for more than a week, like, you get at the end of a day, you're tired, you're agitated, whatever. I'm just sitting on this bench, and this guy came up and he was trying to sell me a light up Eiffel Tower thing, touristy thing, and I was like, just leave me alone. And he wouldn't and I just stood up, and I was a good foot taller than this guy. This is a little guy, and I was like, leave me alone. It was like, whoa, people don't realize who they're messing with a lot of times, or what kind of personal.
No, I'm probably the opposite of you.
Oh, man.
I'm 5'6.5".
Oh wow, okay, yeah. So
but the thing is, I am built. Like, I'm short, but I'm thick. Like I said, I played rugby.
Oh yeah, that'll put
a teenager.
It in, yeah.
I was a centre back, so that's basically, I'm in the defense line. I was at 5'6".
Wow,
and I tackle the shit out of everyone.
Yeah.
Kickboxing for years, and like, I remember one time, it was after we were in the kickboxing club, and we done sparring and stuff that day. Then we decided to go out for a few drinks after, and this was years ago, and this is before I met my fiance, and this guy, like, he was one of the fellas, he was like talking to some of the girls, and I always just happened to be there talking away with him and them, whatever, right? I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
And he started kind of trying to do digs at me. I was like, because he was taller than me. He was about 6 foot. I was 5'6". I'm 5'6.5". And I was just like, okay, I weigh 15 kilos more than you. That's like 32, 33 pounds more.
Yeah.
I have more muscle than you, and I just spent the last half an hour beating the shit out of you. You know, you can't talk shit when I just beat the shit out of you. You know.
Well, guys know, like, it's, you know, that's what that factors into why I find it so insane that you're going to have a chain restaurant inside of a dungeon.
Yeah,
like to be
and the people who.
Yeah, to be so disconnected from violence that you think you're going to take a break and walk into a sandwich shop from your murdering.
Yeah.
Look, I've just slaughtered 15 monstrous creatures. I need a turkey sandwich, you know? Turn around and like, walk over like, what?
And it's an orc or a goblin that's giving you that sandwich.
How are you imagining this happening? Like,
yeah.
Oh my god, it's nuts.
Do you know what? I don't know if you ever seen this show. It's really good anime. It's anime. It's called Dungeon Delicious. Or Delicious in Dungeon.
I'm not a big anime fan. I've seen a couple, but yeah, unless it's
really good
or something big.
It is really good. But at some point they go down into like the lower levels of the dungeon. And they explain it's all magical and how all that works.
Yeah.
And they come into like a bar that's in the middle of the dungeon. But in the area that it's in, all the monsters have been cleared out and away from everything, and it's ran by a bunch of shady like thieves and miscreants who are not able to survive in the upper levels or outside the dungeon because they're wanted criminals. You know, I feel like they took that idea, but didn't understand how it worked in the show. You know, there was a shady place. All these bad guys, they're wanted up above. But they're like, oh, here's like you said, here's our version of McDonald's.
Yeah, well,
goblin that you just killed his whole family is serving you.
The disconnect is the idea that there would be people who essentially make their living preying on other people, and that those people deep down inside want to work retail, work food service. You know. They don't, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a, Mongolian warrior who's traveled all across the world, killing people and taking stuff. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about bounty hunters in Star Wars, or you're talking about all sorts of stuff in medieval fantasy. Like, if you have a class of people that murder and prey on other people, they're not going to be like, oh, let's set up a shop here. This is like that's not their thought process at all. Their thought process is, who can we take the sandwich shop from and eat everything and then move on? Like, why would they run a business? They're thieves. You know, you don't go into a crime-ridden area and find out that the gang that's selling drugs also operates a clean bodega franchise selling people fresh gum. You know, like, what? Like, that is ridiculous. I just,
that's their side hustle.
It boggles the mind. Like, these, what do they think is going through these humanoids' heads or whatever? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, there's no logical thinking on how people like this. If you have a complaint with a neighbor and there's always something going on, they're always making noise and they're always being disturbance at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. You're not going to treat them nice. You don't want to be near them. Never mind if they come out trying to kill your whole family and your whole town and eat their faces in front of you and then go back in a hole and be like, burger?
Yeah, I was about to say, what are you going to offer them, a burger?
Yeah. No, I don't want a burger that's of my neighbor's face or my family's face. Okay, that's not nice. That's weird. Yeah. like where are they getting the meat from? Where are they getting the supplies from? Well, you can kind of figure that one out. But yeah,
it's nuts.
I think that's more or less it. Is there anything else you want to drop in or say before we finish up?
No, I appreciate everybody who's supported me through the past few years, especially, or from the beginning. If you're a hardcore Chubby Funster fan, going all the way back into the Google Plus days, the early OSR online era. But I have a lot of stuff. Check out my publisher page on DriveThru. I've got adventures. I've got settings like Shadowdark or Shadowrim, just like Skyrim, or ShadowSun or Shadowrim. It's like Dark Sun or Skyrim. I have Terra Invictus, which is like my own hex crawl design. I've got the supplements for Shadowdark itself, like Player's Companion, GM Companion. I had somebody ask today on the Facebook group if there were any spells because the Player Companion doesn't have extra spells. I do have a spell supplement for Shadowdark. I've got a lot of stuff. Just check it out. I got stuff for Adventure Conquer King, if you're into that, and check it out. I've got reasonable prices. Also, I think that's an important thing. People put up a product and they'll be like, "This is a $30 PDF." I'm like, well, not a lot of people are going to read that.
Yeah.
I try to keep it so that you can, you have good previews. If you're interested in any product, just check out the preview page. Usually have about an 8 to 10 page preview of the product. And yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for the reviews that you've done.
Oh, they're great. I've reviewed them because I think they're brilliant. Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
I want to share that with people. And if it only sends 1 or 2 people over, well, that's 1 or 2 more people have discovered Chubby Funster.
That's right. Yeah. Every bit helps. Everything adds up.
And then maybe they might tell someone else as well.
Yeah. I sometimes I get little bursts where all of a sudden like 5 or 8 copies of a particular book sell in like one day, and I haven't said anything about it or whatever, and I'm like, wow, what happened? And then I'll find somebody made a comment on Discord somewhere, or excuse me, they'll somebody made some reference on the Facebook group, and that sent a bunch of people that I didn't even realize were in my marketing reach. So I'm always happy when people post. One of the things I love about print on demand is way more than I really think way more than regular print. People take pictures of their print on demand books more than anything else. I hardly ever see pictures of a big corporate product book that somebody got in the mail. I see a ton of pictures of products that are passion products by small producers, print on demand, books that would not exist 10 years ago. And now they exist and people are able to show them off. One of the things I do is take down on DriveThru. There's like an amount that's for you as the publisher, and then there's the cost of actually printing the book. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people set their amount equal to what they would get for the PDF. So if it's an $8 PDF, then they have $8 plus the price of the book. And I try to cut down my part of the amount on the print on demand because I think it's good for people to get books. They put the books up, put pictures up, they get shares. It's good for marketing. So I mark it down. So a lot of times the PDF might be $8 and the book might be 10 or 11. And I think that's, I like to see the book in the world. I like to see it on somebody's table. I like to see it, people get it in the mail. That's really satisfying. Like behind my head here, that's hard with its reverse. This whole shelf here are proofs and extra copies that I have. I'm going to be taking a bunch of them to North Texas convention if anybody's going to be there, and give them. I like I said, I love to just give away books and give them away to people that have been really, important supporters and friends. I wish you were there. I'm pretty sure you're not going to be though.
The flight expense alone would kill me.
It's a long way to Texas. But it's just been really great to be able to produce product, to get it in people's hands, so that they can have fun with it. I'm going to be at North Texas with Shadow City and showing people how it works and getting feedback, because I'm going to be running a Kickstarter after North Texas sometime in mid to late June. And running, it's going to be my first Kickstarter. Never done this before, but even though I've made as many books as I have on DriveThru, I'm going to have it fulfilled through DriveThru so that I don't have to worry about that, because it's hard enough to learn how to do your own first Kickstarter. I don't need to learn how to do full bound books and everything without having shipping and all that.
That can be a disaster as well.
That's a nightmare, right? So so I'm working on that. So if you're into vampire, if you want to play a fast-paced vampire game, that's what I'm working on. We're playtesting right now. It's awesome. Every night that we play, it's fast-paced Shadowdark intensity. It's not a slow political maneuvering game, and I really like it. It's going to be great. So
that's awesome. I will, as I always do, I'll link in the description for all your socials, your DriveThru. Do you have a website as well?
That's something that's on my list, because I'm putting that, with the Kickstarter and everything. I think I need to start moving into that space. But with everything you add that, it becomes one thing you have to manage, one more thing you have to manage. And I'm been hesitant for a while, but I think I have to pull the trigger.
I'll link your socials and DriveThru stuff in the description and in the pinned comment. That's what I do with everyone,
Cool.
So this has been awesome, Greg. Thanks a million. If you ever want to come on and talk about anything in general, hit me up anytime. We'll sort something out. And again, thanks everyone for watching. It's been great that people want to tune in, listen to my dumbass talk to much better people and review projects and stuff like that. So this has been great. I'll talk to you all again soon. Good luck. Goodbye.
See you.